Ever since I was a kid, my dad has had this nickname for me, Pata Caliente, which is Spanish for hot feet. Basically, I can never stand still. Never have, and probably never will. As a little girl, that mostly meant following my parents around at every chance to run errands, and as a teenager, it meant taking every single invite extended to me. Homework could wait. As an adult, though, it mainly just means I take a lot of trips, too many, some might say, and it also means I move often. I've lived in 3 apartments in 2 cities in the last calendar year alone, to be exact. I have no intention to slow down either. During my most recent trip, though, the only thing I could think about was how much I wish I could share these experiences with other people. Travel is my lifelong lover, and whether a trip is big or small, luxury or cheap, exploring new cities or spent totally disconnected, the thrill she gives me is always the same. And I think everyone should be able to experience it too. So naturally, I'm starting a new addition to my blog and my YouTube channel, where I'll share all my adventures, be it the ones across the country or just exploring the city I live in now. I feel there's no better place to start than the one that fostered my devotion to exploring, the place my parents took us as a kid when we couldn't afford much else, the Great Smoky Mountains. My name is Kate, and welcome to the Drama Drive-In. As per usual, everything I post here on YouTube as a video essay is posted as a blog on my Substack a week earlier. So if you want early access to all my content, or if you just prefer reading it on your own, then make sure to click the link in the description below to subscribe to my Substack. With their densely packed forests, blue fog settling over the horizon at dusk, and deep lore rooted in a range older than the trees themselves, the Great Smoky Mountains are wise in their years and a home to all. Older and more humble than the Rockies or the Cascades, the Smokies don't insist upon their reverence. They don't boast the beauty of the young, but they have a grounded wisdom I have yet to experience anywhere else on Earth. Last week, I spent 6 days nestled in this range, hiking and swimming and eating plenty. On the borders of this getaway were 2 days in cities Atlanta and Gatlinburg, finished off at the end with a visit to Tallulah Gorge State Park and Helen. Here's what I did and how I made the most of 10 days in my favorite region of the US. I recently moved to Columbus, Georgia, which means that Atlanta is only an hour and a half away and right on the way to the Great Smoky Mountains National Park. And yet, I've never been there. So, my first detour was to visit the most anticipated attraction in the state, the Georgia Aquarium whale shark, Yushan. Rescued from a fish market in Taiwan almost 20 years ago, Yushan is one of the most popular attractions at the aquarium, and in my opinion, worth every penny of the $55 per person entrance fee. Not necessarily because I relish spending over $100 to watch fish swim, I am from Florida after all, but because this nonprofit is one of the highest ranked contributors to marine research and conservation globally. After my visit to the aquarium, I made a quick stop at the Coca-Cola factory, which admittedly was not worth the $30 entrance fee to make your own flavored juice and try discontinued sodas. I will admit, I don't like soda. I mostly went because my husband loves it, but I digress. I ended the evening at Ponce City Market, which is a huge food hall with tons of variety, great stalls, and a rooftop with a breathtaking view of the city skyline. On day 2, I made my way up to Gatlinburg, Tennessee, somewhere I spent a lot of time when I was a kid. Now, Gatlinburg is kitschy, colorful, and full of local businesses ready to serve with phenomenal customer service. I mean, maybe it's the Miami in me, but I'm still always shocked at how nice everyone is in the South. Gatlinburg has plenty of options for great food, but we did stop in at Dick's Last Resort just for the fun of it. Plus, we always leave there with great hats. And so it began. After an afternoon in Gatlinburg, we made our way to our rental cabin in the mountains just 5 minutes from the national park entrance. I always try to book something like this instead of a hotel, as it's usually a little bit more budget friendly, and I get a lot more peace and quiet. I spent every morning enjoying my coffee on the balcony with birdsong in the forest. You can't really beat that. Plus, a full kitchen means being able to prep lunches and dinners at home for extra savings, which means you don't have to eat out for every single meal. I split my time in the mountains so that we'd have plenty of hiking with a rest day in between, but flexibility is key when the weather is questionable. There was a lot of rain on the forecast the week that we were there. The first day of hiking, we started at the Townsend entrance, which is further west in Tennessee, and did about 6 miles total between Abrams Falls trails and a few smaller ones. This hike is 5 miles of pure magic. I crossed streams, climbed rocks, befriended a moth, and found myself with my feet in the water at the base of a gorgeous waterfall. The next day, we hiked the Alum Cave Trail, which might just break into my top 3 favorite hikes. Now, I'm not in the best shape lately, so the uphill miles certainly took a lot out of me, but the view at the top was just unbeatable. Also, I got bit by a squirrel on this finger because he wanted my trail mix, and that was a first for me. Tuesday, we drove east to North Carolina, where I joined Smokemont Riding Stable on a 2.5 hour horseback ride through the mountains and to a waterfall. They are one of only 3 stables that are actually allowed to go on horseback riding trails into the Smoky Mountains National Park. Spoiler alert, I am a secret horse girl, and this was one of my major trip highlights. Galloping on a horse through the Appalachian Mountains is a feeling like no other and had me thinking that I was Merida from Brave, which, fun fact, the Scottish Highlands and the Appalachian Mountains were the same range before Pangea split. Then, because we were already in North Carolina, we drove down and had barbecue at a childhood favorite spot, Haywood Smokehouse. Their ribs are a must try. Dollywood was also on the docket for our vacation, and thanks to their any day tickets, we just went on the day with the least rain on the forecast. The park had amazing rides, cozy theming, and the best cinnamon bread I have ever had. Not a bad way to spend a Wednesday. After hiking, horseback riding, and walking all day in Dollywood, my legs were pretty sore, so I have to admit I spent an entire day doing virtually nothing but drinking coffee, going on a little wine tasting adventure, and sitting in bed watching a Netflix documentary. It was much needed. I finished off my Smoky Mountain residency with 1 more day and 7 more miles of light hiking, feeling re energized and ready to answer the call of the mountains. Early to bed and early to rise, we checked out on the last morning and drove south to Tallulah Gorge State Park, where we hiked the North Rim and planned to slide down the South Rim sliding rock, but unfortunately it was closed due to a heat advisory. Not to worry, we found a smaller sliding rock nearby and spent the afternoon beating the heat in frigid creek waters and chatting with strangers there to do the same. That afternoon, we checked in for our last night in Helen, Georgia, a German inspired town with delicious milkshakes and even more delicious schnitzel. Don't judge me, but I literally took my leftovers home in a Ziploc bag so that it would fit in our cooler. It was that good. And with that, my Smoky Mountain getaway is over, and I'll miss everything about those mountains until I'm back. Nothing has ever quite come close to these forests where I spent so much of my childhood, a region I consider to be a second home, and where my love of hiking was born. My favorite thing about hiking has always been the peak. For the obvious, of course, the mountain range sprawling before you, the reward you worked so hard for. But mostly, I love the peak because there are a few things like a Ziploc bag full of grapes and a horde of people just as exhausted and exhilarated as you are, all sitting at the top of a mountain to make you feel small. The Great Smoky Mountains National Park is the most visited park in the United States, and I just can't help but feel a sense of community when I'm out there. A knowledge that people from all over the world and different walks of life are happy to drive hours if it means just getting to spend a little bit of time with these old, wise giants. This has been the Drama Drive In. Thanks for watching.